Okay, so I am going to go over the practice test that is on Canvas. This should be published right now, and you could take it right now if you wanted. I am going to work through it. So on number 1, it is asking me to find the domain. Remember, the domain is where the x value doesn't work. So I am going to solve this on a piece of paper. I have x minus 2 equals 0. If I add 2 to both sides, it's everywhere except for that 2 where I have this. So this would be negative infinity to 2 unioned with 2 to infinity. So I'm going to go look for that answer on Canvas, which is right here. The range is my y, no, not my y value, is my number at the end of the equation, so the negative 4. So I want negative infinity unioned with negative 4 to infinity. Okay. On this one, we don't have a number at the end, but the domain works the same way. I'm going to take the denominator and set it equal to 0. So I have x minus 6 equals 0. I add 6 to both sides. I get x equals 6. So my domain here is negative infinity to 6, unioned with 6 to infinity. Then I'm going to go back to my quiz and pick that choice. For my range, when I don't have a number at the end, I look at the coefficients in front of my variable. I have a 2 and a 1, and I just divide them. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. So here I'm looking for the one with a positive 2, which is right here. Okay. Notice, this function on this one happens to be the same one. They could be different on the real test. So my vertical asymptote is the one point where my x value does not work. That was 2. My horizontal asymptote is the one point where my y value didn't work. So that one was negative 4. Over here for my vertical asymptote, it was the x value that didn't work. It's also the same as number 2 on the practice test. It might not be on the real test. So my vertical asymptote here is 6, and my horizontal asymptote is 2, because I did 2 divided by 1. So if they were different, I would just have to solve 2 different equations. Okay. Number 5 wants me to find the graph of the function 5x minus 2 over x minus 1. So let me write this down on a piece of paper before I go switch screens. So I am going to go to Desmos to graph this one. To type it into Desmos, I want to put my numerator in parentheses and then my denominator in parentheses. Okay. So this is what the graph looks like. You can see there is an asymptote at y equals 5 and at x equals 1. So when I go look for this on my quiz, I want it at 5, so this one's like at 3. That's not right. This one is at 5 and at 1, so this is my answer. Okay. This one wants me to simplify the expression, so I'm going to go write this on my paper, and then once I finish copying it down, I'm going to solve it there and then type it back up here. So I have x squared minus 7x minus 8 over x squared minus 10x plus 16. So what I want to do here first is I want to factor my numerator and my denominator. To do that, I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 8 and adds to negative 7. It's going to be negative 8, positive 1. For my denominator, I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 16 and adds to negative 10. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 8. Okay, then I'm looking to see if I can cancel out anything. That's the same on the top and bottom. X minus 8 is the same on top and bottom. So I'm left with x plus 1 on the top and x minus 2 on the bottom. So my numerator was x plus 1 and my denominator was x minus 2. Okay. On number 7, it wants me to find the product. So I'm going to write these down on my piece of paper, simplify, and then cancel out anything that they have in common. I have x squared minus 4x minus 5 over x squared plus 6x plus 9 times 2x squared plus 6x over x squared plus 7x plus 6. So let's take a look at my paper. What I want to do here is I want to factor each of my fractions. So I'm going to start with the one on the left. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 5 and adds up to negative 4. That's going to be negative 5 and positive 1. On the denominator, I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 9 and adds to 6. That's going to be 3 and 3. Okay. Over here, I have both my terms they're even and they have an x, so I am going to pull out a 2x, and then I have this one divided by 2x is x, 6x divided by 2 is 3. On the second one, I'm looking for what multiplies to 6 and adds to 7. That's going to be 6 and 1. Then I want to cross out anything I have in common on the top and bottom. It doesn't matter which top or which bottom, it just has to be on the top and the bottom. So I have x plus 1, that's on the top and bottom, and then I have x plus 3. Then everything else is different. So I have 2x, x minus 5, over x plus 3, because I didn't cross this one out, times x plus 6. Then I'm going to go back on to my quiz and find that one. It was the one with 2x, x minus 5. Okay. Number 8 wants me to find the quotient, so I'm going to write that down. Remember, quotient is division. I have 4x squared plus 12x over x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by 4x over 8x minus 8. Okay, so what I want to first do is when I have division, I actually want to flip my second fraction and turn it into multiplication. So I'm going to rewrite my first one. I have 4x squared plus 12x over x squared plus 2x minus 3. That stays the same. Then this one's going to flip, so I'm going to have 8x minus 8 on top over 4x. Then I want to factor these. So on my first fraction, my numerator, I can factor out a 4 because 4 divides 4 and 12. And I can also take out an x because they both have x terms. 4x squared divided by 4x is x. 12x divided by 4 is 3. On my denominator, I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 3 and adds to positive 2. It's going to be positive 3, negative 1. On my second fraction, I have an 8 in both pieces, so I can factor that out. The first term, I divide by 8, I'm left with x. On the second term, negative 8 divided by negative 8 divided by 8 is negative 1. And then on the bottom, I just have 4x. So then I want to cross out things I have in common. I have a 4x on the top and bottom. I have an x plus 3 on the top and bottom. And I have an x minus 1 on the top and bottom. So I am left with just the number 8. If I go back to my practice test, I just want the number 8. Okay, on number 9, I'm finding the sum or difference. Notice they have the same denominator. So when they have the same denominator, I just add the two pieces on the top, x plus 7. And then my denominator stays the same. So it stays x minus 1. Over here on number 10, when it says find the sum or difference, notice this one has a minus sign in between. So I am going to write 7 minus 6x, and then my denominator stays the same. Okay. Number 11 wants me to find the sum or difference, but they are not quite the same fraction, so I want to go back to my piece of paper and solve this. I have 17 over x squared plus 7x minus 18 plus 6 over x plus 9. So if I look here, I want to factor this to figure out if I need to multiply something to this one or both of them. So I'm going to factor. Looking for what multiplies to negative 18 and adds to positive 7. It's going to be positive 9 and negative 2. So notice my second fraction is missing that negative 2. So I am going to multiply it by x minus 2 over x minus 2. So I can, where's my parenthesis? So I can combine these. So my first fraction stays the same. It's still going to be 17 over x plus 9 times x minus 2. Then the second one I want to distribute. So I have 6 times x, and then 6 times negative 2, which is negative 12. Still over x plus 9 times x minus 2. Then I want to combine like terms. So I have 6x, and then I have 17 minus 12, which is positive 5, over x plus 9 times x minus 2. Okay, was this a type in one? It was. So my numerator is 6x plus 5. And my denominator is, I'm going to leave it in parentheses. It is x plus 9 times x plus 2. Or minus 2, my bad. Okay. This one wants me to find the sum or difference, but they have different denominators, so I'm going to copy that down on my paper. It is 6 over x plus 4 minus 1 over x plus 6. So since both the denominators are completely different, what I want to do is multiply each fraction by the opposite denominator. So this one gets multiplied by x plus 6, and this one gets multiplied by x plus 4. So on my first fraction, I get 6 times x, which is 6x, plus 6 times 6, which is 36, over x plus 6 times x plus 4. I'm going to change this to plus and minus 1, so I don't forget that it's negative. So I have negative 1 times x, which is negative x, and then negative 1 times 4, which is negative 4, over x plus 6 times x plus 4. Then I want to combine like terms, so I have 6x minus x, which gives me 5x, 36 minus 4, which gives me 32, over x plus 6 times x plus 4. So I had 5x plus 32 over x plus 6, x plus 4. Okay. On number 13, what I want to do is cross multiply on this. So I am going to go back to my paper. I'm actually going to start a new paper. And I forgot to copy my problem. Let's go back. I have x plus 1 over 5 equals x minus 2 over 6. So I cross multiply. So I have 6 times x, which is 6x, 6 times 1, which is 6. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Then I want to get all of my variables over to the same side. So I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides. I have x plus 6 equals negative 10. I subtract 6 on both sides. I get x equals negative 16. Okay. Number 14 is asking me for the LCD of the following equations. So what I would want to multiply all of the fractions by to get rid of the fractions. Notice I have an x and a 5, so my LCD here would be 5x. Then I am going to write this down on my paper to solve it. I have 9 over x plus 1 over 5 equals 7 over x. Then I want to multiply by my LCD, which we said was 5x. So I'm going to rewrite this out. I have 5x times 9 over x plus 5x times 1 over 5 equals 5x times 7 over x. Okay. Over here I can cancel out the x's and then I'm left with 9 times 5, which is 45. Over here I can cancel out the 5's and I have x times 1, which is x. On my right side I can cancel out the x's and I have 5 times 7, which is 35. Then I subtract 45 on both sides, and I get x equals negative 10. Okay, number 15 wants the extraneous solution to this, so the solution that does not work. So I'm going to copy this down on my paper first. I have 12 over x minus 5 equals 18x squared over x squared minus 25 minus 9x over x plus 5. So if I take a look at this, notice I have x squared minus 25. If I take these two and multiply them by each other, it will give me x squared minus 25. So my LCD here, I'm going to rewrite it as x plus 5 times x minus 5. And I'm going to multiply that by this whole thing right here. So I have x plus 5 times x minus 5 times 12 over x minus 5 equals x plus 5 times x minus 5 times 18x squared over x squared minus 25 minus, actually I want to make this plus and then move the minus up there. So plus x plus 5, x minus 5 times negative 9x over x plus 5. Okay, then I want to go look for what I can cross out. On the first term, I can cancel out the x minus 5s. On the second one, I can cancel out everything because x plus 5 times x minus 5 gives us x squared minus 25. On the second one, third one, I can cancel out the x plus 5s. So then I want to go through and multiply. Over here, I have x plus 5 times 12. So 12 times x is 12x. 12 times 5 is 60. Over here, I just have the 18x squared. Over here, I want to multiply negative 9x times x, so that's negative 9x squared. Negative 9x times negative 5 is positive 45x. What I want to do next is get all my variables and numbers to the same side so I can factor. I want to subtract 12x on both sides. I have 60 equals 18x squared minus 9x squared. I forgot to combine like terms. That's fine. Plus 33x. I'm going to combine like terms. I have 60 equals 9x squared plus 33x. Then I want to subtract 60 on both sides. I have 0 equals 9x squared plus 33x minus 60. What I want to do is I am going to factor out a 3 to make this easier, so I'm going to divide everything by 3. If I divide on the 0 side, I don't have to write it factored, I can just divide. So I have 0 equals 3x squared plus 11x minus 20. And then I do not want to factor that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Desmos and see where it crosses the x-axis. I have 0 equals 3x squared. It shouldn't have been 11x squared, it should have just been 11x. Plus 11x minus 20. So it is crossing at 1.33 and negative 5. 1.33, remember, is 4/3. So I'm going to write those down. I have negative 5 and 4/3. The question was asking me what the extraneous solution is. So if I go back and plug these in, which one of these doesn't work? So let me start with negative 5. If I plug in negative 5 up here, negative 5 minus 5 gives me negative 10. I can have negative 10 as a denominator on a fraction. Over here, I have negative 5 squared, which is positive 25. Positive 25 minus 25 is 0. I cannot have 0 as a denominator on my fraction, so right away I found the answer that doesn't work. It is negative 5. Okay. On number 16, it's telling me that I have been playing volleyball practice, and I have put into play 36 out of 40 serves I have attempted. I need to solve the equation 92 over 100 to figure out the number of consecutive serves I need to put into play in order to raise my percentage to 92. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first write this equation down on my paper. I have 92 over 100 equals 36 plus x over 40 plus x. What I'm going to do is I am going to cross multiply. So I'm going to have 92 times 40 plus x equals 100 times 36 plus x. So then when I want to distribute, I have 92 times 40. I do not know that one. Let me grab my calculator really quick. 92 times 40 is 3,680 plus 92x equals 100 times 36, so 3,600. Plus 100x. Then what I want to go do is I want to get all my variables and all my variables on one side and all my numbers on the other side. So I am going to subtract 92x on both sides. I have 3,680 equals 3,600 plus 8x. Then I subtract 3,600 on both sides. I get 80 equals 8x. I divide by 8. That 8 looks weird. And I get x equals 10 for my answer.